Hello, and welcome to Coder Radio. Today is the 8th of July. I hope if you're here in the States that you had a good 4th, that you didn't, come out with any fewer digits or appendages than you came in with. Gotta be careful with those fireworks. Here in Florida, we managed to, at least in my area, mitigate the casualties by being rained out most of the day. So that's good. No, I'm proud to say I still have 10 fingers. Today we have Zach Lloyd of Warp coming on to talk about Warp 2. That's right. Feels like it was just on talking about Warp 1, but he's got Warp 2. I've been using it for a while. It's pretty great. I'm not going to lie. I'm super bullish on Warp. I love it. Once again, I found that I do not use the majority of its features, as will be shown in this conversation. So, I'm trying. I guess I still have kind of an old man's view of the terminal. There's also a sweet promo code at the end of the show that Zach gave out. So you guys can use that if you're interested in, I think it's a free month of Warp Pro. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. So we had a minor redirect issue with the iTunes feed. I guess if you're hearing this, you're not affected by it. It should be resolved by the time this is out. Just be aware if you know someone or something. The Fireside main feed works. It was just when we did the transition, there was a redirect that was still cached. And I guess Apple finally tried to, they invalidated the cache, right? So that redirect didn't work anymore, but all good to go. You should be fine by now. Hop in the Discord. I have actually been unable to effectively keep up with the Discord. There's so much conversation going on in there. I know there's a lot going on in the hiring channel. A lot of, I think just today, someone's starting a new Linux GUI application project for, it sounds like a pretty fancy note-taking app. So that's pretty cool. We are a lot of gaming talk. I have been playing Civ 7 probably too much, and I'm still bad at it. So I don't know why I mentioned that, but I'm just truly, truly terrible. Also, as always, the show is brought to you by the Mad Botter and Alice, my company. If you need data messed with, custom ERP integrations, or straight up custom software dev, go to alice.dev, book an appointment, drop me a line in the Discord, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Let me know. I'm here for you for that. So I'm not going to hold you any longer. Without further ado, here's Zach, and enjoy. All right, we're hitting Warp 2.0 with Zach Lloyd. How are you, man?
I'm great. Excited to be back.
It's like you never left. I usually have 4 or 5 Warp windows open all the time. So
that's awesome.
So let's jump right in. You have been a busy guy.
I feel like I'm everywhere. Yeah, I am working hard. That is for sure. But working on some very cool stuff.
Yeah. So why don't we dive right in? So we all know what Warp, the original one, was, right? It's an AI powered terminal.
Yep.
What's new in 2.0?
Yeah, so Warp 2 launched a couple weeks ago. The general concept is that Warp has evolved beyond being a terminal into what we're calling an agentic development environment. The key difference is that it's really built for the flow of developing by prompt. And so what I mean by that is, like, I think in the old school world of development, the one that I've been in my whole life, the way that I've always built software is by hand. And that means if I want to fix a bug, build a feature, what I would do is open up my code editor. I'd find a bunch of files I wanted to change, type a bunch of code, maybe use autocomplete IntelliSense. Then I'd hop over to my terminal and run a bunch of terminal commands to build it, test it, run it, deploy it, etc. And I think we're just moving away from that to a world where instead of doing all that manual typing of code and commands, what I'm doing, more and more, almost all the time now, is I just type a prompt or 2 prompts or 3, because maybe I have multiple things running in a row, and that prompt launches an agent, and the agent gathers context, tries to understand the task I'm doing, and does some amount of it. Maybe it does the whole thing, maybe it does half of it, it loops me in when I need help. But I think that's the workflow that software engineers, software developers are going to be adopting. And so at Warp, we felt like actually the terminal is not really what you want for that workflow, and nor is the IDE. You want something that I think looks more like a terminal. And so Warp 2.0 has grown out of the terminal, but that is really built to support this like workflow of multitasking yourself with agents. So in Warp 2.0, rather than the primary interface being you type a terminal command, the primary interface is that you type a prompt and that launches an agent, and that you can do that multiple times in a row and see what all the agents are doing. You can edit code that the agent produces. And so that's a really big improvement we've made in Warp, is that there's an inline code editor. And then, finally, we just really, really went full into the quality of the agent experience. And so, we ended up as the number one agent on Terminal Bench, which is one of the two main benchmarks, and we're top 5 on SweBench Verified, which is the other one. And so we're just like fully in the world of agentic development with Warp right now.
Great. So just to really dumb this down as if I was 5, right?
Okay.
The idea is I'm starting either some feature or who knows, maybe I'm just trying to whip together like a script to, I don't know, organize some data, right?
Sure, whatever you want to do.
Whatever I'm trying to do. Instead of like popping open IDE, struggling my way through it, copy pasting that into ChatGPT or whatever, because I don't know, why is this crashing? Here's the output. I'm so confused. I would start in Warp and say, I have these horrible, flat files that I need to parse into something else. Go ahead. Is that kind of where I or
that's like list? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and because it's because of where it is in the stack, which is it's at the terminal level, it can basically do anything. So yeah, you could point it at some files and be like, I don't understand these. You can point it at your production server. You can point it at a code base, and it will try and do what you asked it to do. And if it doesn't understand what you asked it to do, it will clarify. It will collaborate with you on building a plan to do it. But yeah, you just kind of tell your computer what you're hoping to accomplish, and it works with you to do it.
So what's a less simple version of that then?
Less simple would be, let's say I'm working on Warp's own code base, which is lines of Rust code.
Oh, you said the magic word.
We have our own custom UI framework. And so it's not something that all these like LLMs have been trained on. And so if you want to get Warp to build a feature or fix a bug in Warp, you don't want to just be like, hey, build it for me. What you want to do is tell it how to build it. And so this is what matters, that you still know what you're doing as an engineer. And so you might be like, look, I want this feature. I'm going to attach a screenshot of what it looks like, but here's how I want you to do it. I want you to create a data model that has this structure. I want you to build an API around that data model with these different methods. I want you to wire it up into the controller like this. And, you're telling it how to do it, not just the outcome you want. And that requires more knowledge, more skill, providing it more context. But it's basically the same general like paradigm of working with you, like describing the problem. You describe a little bit of the solution, but you don't have to like go write the code. And like writing the code was kind of never the point. So I just think it's like saving you some time for sure.
Right, because our job is really to solve the business or the organizational problem, not write fancy code that we can take our gold MacBook, take on its Socratic beauty. Right? It's
I mean, it's fun to write code. Just to be clear, I'm not anti-writing code,
right?
But like, to me, it's like the essence of what we're doing is building software that solves problems for businesses or people. And so you're still doing that as an engineer, whether you're using Warp or any other agentic tool.
Now, okay, so I'm using Warp. What are my options in terms of flexibility, in terms of the underlying LLM?
Yeah, so you can choose LLMs from Anthropic, Google, or OpenAI. The default that we're currently at is Sonnet 4. We feel like is the best general purpose. We also provide the option to have a different model for training, and that actually we have defaulted right now to O3 from OpenAI. Gemini is cool for certain things. Gemini has this huge context window. We eval all the models on what we think are representative use cases, and basically we pick the best default, which for most things right now, like I think it's safe to say that Anthropic has a lead here, but I don't know, like if it changes, we will change to offer the best model to people who are using Warp.
Right, and for folks who aren't familiar with the name Anthropic, that's Claude. So if you've heard
that's
of
Claude, correct? Yeah,
right. That's what's underlying Claude code and all that kind of hotness that's out right now.
Exactly.
So I already know the answer to this question because it's kind of unfair, but
okay.
So I'm a small team.
Yeah.
What are the options for me? Right.
Yeah. So Warp has like some built-in features that make it full for teams. The biggest difference that we have here with other sort of products in our space is that we have this built-in team knowledge store, which is called Warp Drive, which lets you, I think the simplest way to understand it is kind of like Postman for the terminal was the original concept. And so if you want to share like complicated commands, curl commands for G Cloud or AWS or whatever across your team, you can do it in Warp Drive. You You can also share notebooks. You can share prompts. We're working on so that you can share MCP servers and rules.
Oh,
And the
wow.
cool thing about that is like it just adds all this context for your teammates, but I think more importantly, it adds context for the LLM. And so all of that stuff that gets put into this shared space can be used to, ask questions and have the LLM answer them with your own knowledge, not just like the knowledge that the LLM is trained on publicly. So, for
Right.
instance, if you have like firefighting playbooks, you can, what do I do when this happens? And, the LLM can give you the right commands to run and point you at the right things to understand your system, point you the right places in the code.
Right. And I'm assuming I can set up, let's say, if I have some crazy legacy system that was, bespoke, built for us internally, I could set up some kind of knowledge base and have Warp refer to that for.
You could do it however you want. You can use Warp's built-in one, or if you have your knowledge in files, it's very easy for Warp to ingest that, or Warp's MCP. So if your knowledge is in some external system that has an MCP server, you can just point it at that, or you can use Warp to build an MCP server for some really like old knowledge store. So it's pretty easy to get the knowledge in.
So that's really interesting. That could be almost like like you said, like a super postman for internal teams, particularly working on, like crazy custom ERP systems that are internal to their company, right?
Yeah.
You can tell what I do, right? It's just like these things were built a long time ago. It's been gone for 20 years and we don't know what happened. So
that's funny.
Okay, so big change from Warp, in my opinion, when it came out.
Yeah.
Obviously, my LinkedIn is like you're all over the place, man. It's like something out of Criminal Minds, a stalker shrine. You're just popping up everywhere.
That's funny.
So you're up to something. So what's next?
Yeah. So I think that the way that it evolves is that the underlying models continue to improve. The ability to get context into these models improves. And what that means is that the complexity of tasks that a model can do autonomously continues to go up. The amount of time that an agent can run unsupervised for continues to go up. And today, I think if you're using an agent in Warp, it might run anywhere from like 1 to 10 minutes. I think it's not unreasonable to think like an agent could do a task that might run for 30 minutes to an hour in like 6 months. And as that happens, I think that the role of the engineer continues to change and become more of a sort of orchestrator or conductor or tech lead of agents. I also think that the way that agents get launched will become, right now what I would say Warp supports is like interactive agents, meaning like a developer has to go explicitly prompt an agent to run and do a thing. And like I think the world will move more towards like the kind of definite cognition or something where it's a little bit more of a workflow system for simpler tasks where you are going to be able to go right from like a ticket being filed or a bug report coming in on GitHub or a Figma mock being created to an agent doing some draft work that a engineer still needs to review and approve and iterate on. And Warp's vision around that, trying to make that workflow pretty seamless. So we will continue to sort of, put boundaries of what developers can do orchestrating agents. I think that's what you can think of. On a more like tactical level, like if you really want a first-class platform for humans and agents to work together, like there's some stuff that's missing in Warp that needs to be there. And like probably the biggest one that we're thinking about now is like, how do you make it really easy for a human to review code that an agent has written and iterate on that code with the agent without having to like context switch and go to a web app like GitHub web app or whatever. And so there's all these things that we're going to do in the UX that I think we're actually pretty uniquely well positioned to do to make this experience of like launching, managing, and collaborating with agents much smoother.
That's super interesting. Okay. So is it wrong to think we might be able to get to the point, again, I'm going to do like a 5-year-old's example just to make life easy. Mike's really bad esoteric ERP system, 500s with some sort of, vomit stack trace, right? could I somehow have Warp monitoring that? Say, hey, Dingus, here's the stack trace I got. I took a look at the code in, I guess, GitHub or just even locally, I guess, if it's, pointed to the server, and say, this is what I think I should do. Should I do it?
That's definitely what's coming.
Okay, so do I have some stack traces for you?
I mean, this is how we're going to dogfood it with Warp, is not just on stack traces, but on GitHub issues. I think the success rate of that is not going to start at 100%. So I think you're going to need a human in the loop. And I think for certain things, you're going to want like the human to continue to be the originator, not like you won't want it to be like reactive. But I definitely think that that's a workflow, this self-correcting software where agents external input, like an input to the system, and try to improve it. That's definitely coming.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I could also see somehow, I don't know, maybe a line code review or like merge request review. Yeah.
That's already like there's products on the market for that.
I'm sure there are. Yeah.
Yeah. That's already happening for sure.
So that's a thing. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I haven't turned back. I was using it in the beta on Mac. This is totally unrelated to this interview, but I have a framework coming on Thursday and I'm rather excited about it. Okay. So I will get to kick the tires on the Linux version again. I even have the window running on my Dell that you guys launched, and very impressed with the WSL2 compatibility there. I didn't know if there would be some kind of hiccup, but no, it knows you're in Linux, or I should say in WSL, and it picks it right up.
This was a lot of work.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's why I was surprised. Yeah.
Like I mentioned, it's a fully native Rust app, which, Rust is awesome, but we did not pick the easy path for implementing Warp. And so, getting Warp to work well on Linux and Windows with all the different hardware configurations with the WSL and PowerShell was just a big effort. I did it. Actually, Warp, I think, is maybe the only agentic tool that works really well with PowerShell, which is a kind of interesting differentiator. Like, I don't think like Cloud Code and Codex and those are actually even, I don't think they run in PowerShell, period.
It's strange. We have a large kind of like Windows, like, DevOps guys audience.
Yeah.
That are somewhat quiet, but will email me every once in a while, and they love PowerShell.
Yeah.
I mean, they look at Bash and they're like, you guys are living in the 70s. I don't know what's wrong with you. To which I say they're just wrong, but that's okay. They could be wrong. I'm trying to think of like all the pitches I get, PR people emailing and just general advertisements. No one's really investing in that Windows DevOps Spentic tools.
Yeah, I think we have a really interesting position there because we have this fully native Windows app that understands PowerShell and like in the context of PowerShell can like drive your PowerShell session, which is pretty neat.
Which for folks who haven't used it, and I'm by no means a PowerShell like not my circus, not keys, but I've seen folks do some crazy stuff that you would think, oh, that's just PowerShell. It's pretty wild.
It's cool. I mean, it's not the Unix philosophy of like text out. It's like objects. It's kind of like dealing with objects, but there are a lot of virtues to that, and a very, very powerful. It gives you very powerful completions, and like it's more sort of tactically aware as environment than working in like Bash or Zish. So yeah, it's cool. I'm a PowerShell fan.
Awesome. So last question, because we always wrap up with the same question here.
Yep.
What is one tool that you don't make, can be anything, that you can't live without? I think last time you mentioned some sort of coffee thing, if I remember from my notes.
I'll mention another AI tool that I really like, which is it's called Granola. It's a AI meeting note taker, and I realize I think it's a somewhat crowded market, but the thing I like most about Granola, besides I'm kind of friends with the founder of it, is that it doesn't show up as like black boxes in your Zoom call. So it's those automated meeting note takers. It just works off of like the system audio, and so I think it's like a much less intrusive note-taking experience. And then it does super smart stuff as far as like summarizing and understanding, organizing all of your meeting notes. So it's kind of like, I don't have to take meeting notes. I don't like taking meeting notes. So it's a really, really good product that I recommend.
I should check that out because not only do I dislike taking meeting notes, I am notoriously bad at taking meeting notes. So it's that sounds great. Well, Zach, at the rate you're going, we'll probably be talking to you in a month or two because
we're working on Warp 3.
Are you serious?
I'm not joking. We're thinking about it already. Can I give your listeners a promo code for Warp?
Yeah.
Okay. So the promo code is coderradio, one word, all caps, no spaces. It gets you a month of Warp Pro for free and warps it Warp Dev. What that means is you basically get higher AI limits than our free tier. So I would love for folks to try it out and give me and Michael feedback.
Sweet. I'll make sure that's in the show notes so folks listening, you don't have to aggressively rewind. It's coderradio, all caps.
Yep.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Been great. Have a great day.
You too.